otherwise. Poor drug storage is also reported in many unlicensed stores. Recent media reports have indicated that medicines are kept in many Ugandan households for first aid, treatment of chronic or acute disease conditions. This, according to health experts, promotes inappropriate use of medicines and hence the risks associated with self-medication, antimicrobial resistance.
Experts say resistance to drugs like ampicillin, amoxicillin, among others, contributes to 700,000 deaths annually, and it is projected to rise to 10 million by 2050. Whose responsibility is it to ensure proper drug storage, and how best can it be achieved? That's the question we're asking this morning, and so we're joined by Dr. Bilbert Baguma. He is the Executive Director of Joint Medical Stores. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
You're welcome.
Good morning. Thank you.
All right.
Doctor, who is responsible to ensure proper drug storage in this country?
The proper storage of drugs is the responsibility of all of us, starting from those of us, our institutions that are responsible for distribution, actually starting even as far as the production itself is concerned, because once a drug is produced, it must be stored under certain conditions, and these conditions are controlled both in terms of temperature, humidity, and other things. And then once they are imported into the country, the National Drug Authority then has a duty to test the quality of these drugs before they go on to the market. Then they are kept or stored by some of our institutions like Joint Medical Store or National Medical Stores and other wholesalers. They have responsibility then to make sure that the drugs are kept in the right conditions. The distribution itself from the main wholesale warehouses to the retail warehouses also must be done. The pharmacies that sell drugs must keep them properly, but also at an individual level. In your home, you also have a responsibility to make sure that the drugs you have are kept properly. So it's really a responsibility for everybody at various levels.
But Doctor, I'm going to ask, how is it a responsibility for all of us when we're not aware or we don't have enough knowledge of how to store this message? It's easy for you because you have the knowledge, you have the mandate to make sure that this medicine is kept properly or stored properly. But for me, a layman, I go buy my medicine, I don't have enough information. I haven't been told of how to store it. So how does it then
become your responsibility? Yeah. You see, I agree with you entirely. That's the responsibility of institutions, because some of our institutions have medicine in bulk, right? So it's our responsibility to make sure that while it is with us in bulk, we store it properly. But when it gets to you at an individual level, you have bought your medicine from the pharmacy. Every medicine is actually labeled. It says store at a certain temperature, don't expose to sunlight, don't expose to heat. So even if it has been kept properly from the whole chain and it comes to you and you don't keep it under good condition, then still it will lose its potency.
Right.
So an individual can read, you can read what is written and store it in those conditions.
You know, we've been having stories in the headlines, of course, not just recently, but these are stories that we see time and again. And I'm talking about vaccines that have lost their potence. Critical vaccines for children, for example, immunization, so to speak. So whose responsibility is it to check that all the stakeholders and the medical centers store these vaccines, especially vaccines, in the right conditions, so to speak? Because me, as the citizen or as the consumer, so to speak, I'll just walk into a medical center, health center, take my child. I have confidence that you are responsible as a healthcare center to ensure that these vaccines are stored in the right and optimum conditions. So whose responsibility is it to make sure that these health centers or all the people concerned store these medicines in the right conditions?
No, that is different for vaccines, because vaccines at individual level, you don't store vaccines. No, vaccines are stored in the wholesale level and then at the hospital level or health center level. And for vaccines particularly, most of them are temperature sensitive, and so they must maintain what we call a cold chain. From the time they are manufactured up to the time they are administered, they must be kept between 2 and 8 degrees. So it must be under those conditions. And so it is the responsibility of the health system, actually, if I should put it that way, to maintain that temperature. If these products are manufactured, indeed they will be kept at a certain temperature. If they are transported, they must be transported within that temperature. The big health, stores like ourselves, like Joint Medical Store, we have what we call cold rooms. So these cold rooms have a controlled temperature, and we keep them in those conditions. When they have to be transported, let's say somebody comes and gets vaccines from Joint Medical Store and is transporting them to Karamoja, we make sure they are transported within those conditions. So we have specialized transportation boxes in which they are put. At the health facility, there must be a refrigeration system to keep that cold chain until it's administered to the child.
So who checks that to ensure that the standards are at, acceptable levels?
There are several checks. First of all, as I said, the National Drug Authority has a responsibility for checking the quality of the drugs as they come in. But also there is what we call post-market surveillance. In other words, it means that at any one time, the National Drug Authority can take samples from vaccines that are either in the health facility or elsewhere and check the quality. So to ensure that that happens. Otherwise, it's like a responsibility of the health workers to make sure that they maintain that cold chain.
Well, there's been stories, we have seen them in the papers, and I know you have read them, where there's lack of medicine in one area, and yet there's medicine that is running out, is expiring at the stores. Where does this gap come from? That you at the stores have the medicine, there are some facilities that claim they're not having enough medication or medicine, and you're disposing this off because it's expiring.
Maybe I should provide an explanation here of how the health system is set up, especially the drug distribution system. We have like 3 main channels. One is the National Medical Stores, which is a government entity and receives money from the budget and supplies drugs and health supplies to government health facilities. So maybe that's the one we are talking about, and I don't want to comment on that because I come from a different side. I personally come from Joint Medical Store, and we are responsible then for supplying to the private not-for-profit and also the private health facilities and pharmacies, and of course there is always the private sector as well. So
now you've gotten yourself out of the firing there. But there are very many cases where you have gone to all these private clinics and pharmacies as well. And let's be honest, I think to my eye, almost 99, if not 100% of that medicine is kept in shelves where there is no indication or any thought of the temperatures that should be kept for these medicines. Do you do a follow-up on these people? Do you advise them on the temperatures to keep these medicines? Are they aware? Is there any follow-up on this? Or do you just sell them the medicines and tell them, well, you keep this at this temperature and that's it? Because let's be honest, you have seen all these pharmacies. They don't have the temperatures. Or you walk into some pharmacies, they don't even have a fan just to make sure that there's not that much heat in the place.
No, I agree with you entirely. And maybe there are situations that you have not seen. There are situations where some unscrupulous dealers, I should say, dealing in medicines and health supplies actually store them in ceilings. Because they are working in a pharmacy, the storage is not sufficient, so they work a pharmacy downstairs. In the ceiling they store boxes of drugs, which is a shame. And for us, we have been advocating over time that the quality of drugs touch on the basic existence of human beings. These are drugs we are going to supply to people, and you have a duty. We have a duty as health workers to make sure that those drugs are properly stored. Now, unfortunately, as Joint Medical Store, we don't have the mandate to do that. This is the mandate of National Drug Authority that is responsible for licensing those facilities. What we insist on is that before we supply to you, we must confirm that as an entity, you are licensed. Licensed by the authorities that are licensed, those who sell drugs, whether you are a clinic or a hospital or a pharmacy, you must be licensed. The responsibility to monitor that you are doing the right thing lies with the licensing body, which in this case is the National Drug Authority.
Right. Let's talk about health centers, for example, in the rural settings where they experience a lot of power outages. What are the quick solutions or fallback plans to ensure that, especially drugs like vaccines, you know, don't lose their potency?
No, there have been a number of initiatives in that direction. You might have seen that there are kerosene-driven refrigerators. Now, and thanks to the government and to Gavi and UNEP and other partners, they have also fridges which are solar-driven. So those support those facilities that do not have cold chain. But the bottom line is that if you don't have the right condition for storing vaccines, then you'd rather not have them at all, because to have them when they don't have potency would be really not useful at all. What
are some of the consequences of someone or a human being, you know, being vaccinated with medicine, so to speak, that has lost its potency?
The biggest problem is actually that it would have no effect. That's the biggest problem. It is that it will be apparent to you who has received the vaccine that you are protected against measles, whereas not. But generally they wouldn't tend to have major effects. Although sometimes when drugs are expired, they may also have certain other side effects which may vary depending on which particular vaccine it is. But in most cases it's about the fact that you believe you have got vaccinated, but actually you have not got any effect at all.
So for me, the daily consumer, what would you advise me to do, especially when I'm going out for these medicines? What do I have to look out for? Because I am a patient. I want to be healed. I'm using my money to buy these medicines, and I want to get better. But I need, if this medicine I'm going to buy it and it's not going to be of any help to me, then doesn't make sense. So what advice would you give me as I go out to get this medicine? Do you want me to walk into this pharmacy and demand to see the temperature levels in the area? What do I do?
There are a number of things that you can do at an individual level. For example, if you are going to buy medicine, you should be sure that that medicine is not expired.
Yes, but some of them tamper with expiry dates.
I know, I agree with you. There are some who do, but the majority don't. So there's already, you are reducing chances. You know, you can't be 100% certain, but you can reduce the chances, the risks.
Yes.
One, we should make sure that is not expired.
Okay.
The second thing, which is key, is to make sure that the facility from which you are getting these drugs is actually licensed.
Okay.
Because the National Drug Authority actually carries out inspection of sites. If it has licensed them, I mean, there can still be a problem, but the chances are far reduced. And this you can confirm, because by law they must display
the license.
Okay.
So that reduces the risk as well. But also thirdly, I mean, using a bit of common sense, really, because if you go to somewhere, you find some drug shop hidden somewhere in a tiny place, it is, then you should have worry that maybe something might not be right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it possible for me to tell, for example, for drugs that we have the packaging, of course drugs that have already been expired, but the expiry dates have been tampered with. Is it possible for me to be able to identify such? What should I look out for?
Yeah, it is possible sometimes, not all the time.
Okay.
Because most times the people who alter the dates, they will tend to put something on top of the actual expiry. So if, for example, you are going to buy a drug and you find, because there's always a label, there's always a side with the expiry date, you find that part is covered, maybe there is a piece of paper that has an expiry date, then you should be suspicious. Because it means most likely it has been tampered with. Because normally most manufacturers emboss the packaging itself with the expiry date. Now if you find somebody has put something else and covered up, then it's reason to be suspicious. Although in most cases, if they have done it, I don't know, for lack of a better word, professionally, you may not be able to see it. Yeah.
I think, Doctor, as we are having this conversation, I am thinking one of these days I need to come to joint medical stores and see temperatures of how this medicine is being kept and which medicine, because you know there's different types of medicine. You have Panadol, which people then keep under their bed, and then you have capsules that you'll find sometimes you've bought and they're bent. It's because of the effect of maybe the temperatures, and then you have vaccines that she has been very, very concerned about that need specific temperatures. But then many times you will go to pharmacies and you'll find that they get medicines and pack them in one box. It's different kind of medicines, but they are being put in one box. And doesn't that affect the medicine in any way?
Not necessarily. First, let me talk about the issue of temperature and quality. For us at Joint Medical Store, the issue of quality is so central to our operations that we spend a lot of effort and time and money on ensuring that we provide the right quality. In so doing, we make sure that our warehouses are temperature controlled. We monitor the temperature on a 24-hour basis. And for any reason, should the temperature vary, then we take action to address it. Now, in terms of the drugs and in terms of the quality and mixing them, if the drugs are, let's say, those would say work at ambient temperature, in other words, they work within the normal temperatures, maybe up to 25 or whatever. If they are within the same range of products that work within that temperature, then there is no problem. If, however, one is supposed to be kept under, let's say, cold chain, and another one is under the ambient temperature, and they are mixed, then there is bound to be a problem.
Just one more.
Yeah, sure.
How long does it take for medicine that is out of its normal temperature to go bad?
It varies, and different drugs have different ranges. So I want to give you a general answer. I cannot give you a general answer. It depends on which particular product you are talking about.
You know, Doctor, teach us today, before we let you go, we've seen that experts say that, you know, drug resistance, thanks to self-medication, results to deaths so far of over 700,000 people. Of course, and this number is expected to escalate. By 2050, we're talking of figures to do with, you know, 10 million people losing their, you know, lives thanks to drug resistance, or what you experts call microbial resistance. So teach us today, if I go to the pharmacy today or to a health center and I purchase a bottle of a syrup, for example, after breaking the seal, and talk about the different, you know, types of medications, from antibiotics to the common that we buy, you know, cough syrups and stuff like that. After I break the seal, how long should it take me to discard this medicine? Because most of us tend to keep it forever.
Forever. We
go back and use it again.
You buy a cough syrup this month, April, and there's a chance you might find me using it in November. Yes, because I only took half of it, and then November the cough is back. I go back and revisit the same syrup.
First of all, let me first talk just briefly about antimicrobial resistance. Now, antimicrobial resistance may not have to do with what you are talking about. The commonest forms either result from poor use, which means that the person prescribing does not prescribe the proper dose, or the person taking the medicine does not take the right dose, or the medicine is being given for the wrong illness. And you know, these bacteria are very clever. If you subject them to suboptimal doses, then they learn a mechanism of protecting themselves. They mutate, and in so doing, they become resistant to that product. So the biggest problem that we see is actually people getting medicine, antimicrobials, and not taking the full dose. So if you don't take the full dose, now these bacteria learn to protect themselves. They learn to change their form and shape so that they become less vulnerable to that product, and in so doing you build antimicrobial resistance. Now, in terms of the products that you break the seal, it depends again on the product you are talking about. But on the overall, if I use the generally speaking, if you break the seal, then you shouldn't keep the product for maybe more than 2 weeks to a month.
Wow.
And it is better when you keep it, that you keep it under the right conditions. The right conditions being within a temperature that doesn't go more than, that's room temperature. Room temperature is about 25 degrees. If it is kept within that, then you can use it maybe 2 weeks to a month. But there's no reason really for getting a syrup and then you keep it for 6 months, 1 year.
You know, I'll tell you as a parent, at times, because, you know, our children are actually susceptible to this, you know, viral infections. They have a cough today, you give them this cough syrup for 3 days or 5 days after, of course, this has been prescribed by a doctor or a pharmacist. And after 5 days, they're okay. And so you stop the dosage. Then you already have this bottle that maybe is half full. And you decide, see, I can just keep it because it's a cough syrup, not an antibiotic that I have to discard after a week or so. So you're telling us that 2 weeks maximum? Then
I think that's the best thing. Because you see, I think you should have it for the period that you need it. I don't think you should become a pharmacy. No, because there are those who are in the right conditions to be pharmacists, to be storing drugs, not in your house.
So, doctor, in other words, pharmacists, you people don't save.
In terms of...
You don't save. We are saving medicine here. We don't want to waste medicine and we don't want to waste money.
You're actually putting yourself under condition that can be worse than what you think you are saving.
What are the dangers of me taking medicine that has been overkept, for example?
You see, like anything else.
Not expired, doctor.
Yes, I understand.
The seal says
I get
not
you.
expired. Expired date is 2023.
Yes, I get you.
But it has been on my shelf after I broke the seal for quite a long time.
Yeah, I don't know the conditions in your house. It's like, what's the danger of keeping food that is cooked or it was canned food? You open the can and you are keeping it. The biggest danger is that bacteria can actually grow, enter that food and grow on it, and you'll not see anything. The next time you take it, you actually get poisoning. That's the biggest danger that is there.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I can get poisoning from overstayed medicine.
Yes. Just like anything else, a drink or food.
So there you go. Guys, you don't own a pharmacy at home. If you buy medicine, make sure it doesn't go past a month at most if you're trying to save that much. But the doctor says it's 2 weeks. If you have prescription for 2 weeks, when that prescription is done, my friend, throw the medicine away. You're not a pharmacy. So that you can limit the dangers to your life.
And you know, we cannot close this conversation before we talk of options of discarding this medicine.
Oh yes. Do you just throw it away?
Do you just throw it away? What's the safest method of discarding medicine?
I don't know what I can say, because the safest is actually incineration.
Burning it.
Yes, but you are not an incinerator, and neither do you own an incinerator. So the best thing would be to have special containers where you can put this medicine and then it's disposed through the normal channel. I know I'm talking hypothetically because I know it doesn't exist. It's very difficult, but the people that collect your garbage should be having a way of, discarding these kinds of products.
Okay.
And is it okay for me to just flush it down my toilet?
No, it's not okay. Why should it
why?
flush it down your toilet? You mean, because it's in a container.
Yeah.
But
no, for syrup, medicine.
The medicine itself, no problem. You can even in the sink anywhere. It doesn't.
And the pills as well.
Doesn't matter.
And the pills as well. You can just.
The pills, I think.
They can block your system.
Yeah, of course they can block your system, but it's better it is best actually to find a better way of disposing tablets and those pills, which should be through the health system actually. See, disposal of medicine should be through the health system. They are incinerated and then they don't cause unnecessary poisoning of the environment beyond just the medicine.
So what you're telling us today is that syrups are the most, how will I put it, sensitive type of medication, and they require us to discard them after 2 weeks of breaking the seal. But for tablets, it's a different ball game altogether.
It's different, yeah. Because you see, tablets by their nature, especially if they are in I'm forgetting the right word, in a blister,
right.
They are safer. They are much safer. You can keep them as long as the conditions are okay. You can keep them until at maybe 3 months or 2 months to expiry date. So it's different from this medicine which you open, break the seal. They are very, very different.
Okay.
Yeah.
First aid.
Yes.
First aid boxes are one of the most longest kept medicines ever.
Yeah.
They are in one place stuck until danger comes. And sometimes danger takes a very long time
Yeah,
from
true.
coming for you to
That's
need
true.
the first aid box.
Yes.
Your cautions on first aid box, especially the medicines that are kept in there, are they made to last for?
Yeah.
Sometimes you go 5 years without using that first aid box, and as soon as you get problems, it's the first thing you rush to and use the medicines in there.
And the creams as well.
The key thing is that a first aid box should not have medicine.
And the creams?
The first aid box should indeed be a first aid box.
Okay.
In other words, you should only have things which you may need to use in case of an emergency. Emergency medicine cannot be kept in a first aid box.
No.
A first aid box should basically have things like cotton wool, like bandages, like gauze, like an antiseptic, like scissors, so that in case you get injured, you can quickly be able at least to stop the bleeding, clean up the area, bandage it, and go to seek help. You should not have even Panadol in a first aid box. It's not necessary. Because Panadol is not even actually an emergency thing, but it's good at household level to have some painkillers. For example, you have a headache, you can use a painkiller. That does not need to be in a first aid box.
Why not?
Why should it be in a first aid box?
Why not?
I don't see any reason why. Because you can put it on your drawer in your house. It doesn't have to be in a first aid box. Because the first aid box is actually not even meant to store medicine in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So, and even those products which are there, even cotton wool, even gauze, they should be changed at least every 6 months.
Oh, now
If it's going to be very
now
useful
that's the
for
point
you.
there.
Yeah.
Every 6 months.
Yeah, you should
go
you
check
should
your first
check
aid
your
box.
first aid box, make sure everything is okay. What needs to be replaced is replaced, and
Why should I
Only go.
change my gauze after 6 months, doctor?
because you don't have to change it after 6 months, but you can check. You know, gauze, cotton wool, and other, they also have a way you can see that maybe they are getting out of hand. They are getting, either they will start changing color or they will not look good to you. But even if they are okay, after 1 year, maximum 1 year,
Discard.
you should discard and put in new stuff in your first aid box.
I think I'm guilty
I
of
think,
that one
I
because
think we're all guilty
my
here.
first aid box has a small bottle of spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, such that when you're injured, before you actually,
Yes.
dress your wound, you
can,
cleanse.
yeah, cleanse it.
And some, creams.
Cotton and
some
the
creams,
usual,
massage
yeah.
creams.
Good.
So you're telling me that I need to remove the spirit
Yeah.
bottle and the creams from the first aid box.
And replace them,
Okay.
not
And
just
where
remove.
should I place them? In the car?
You replace
Replace.
them.
Okay.
Buy
In other
new
words, you
ones.
would go to buy new ones, replace these ones.
But where
Because
should I keep them? You're telling me I shouldn't keep them in the first aid box.
who?
The creams.
No, the creams are okay.
And-
Because they are
and the
I was
bottle
talking
of syrup.
about tablets
Oh,
or
okay.
syrups or whatever.
Alright.
They don't need to be in the first aid.
Last question, doctor.
Yeah, sure.
You talked about Panadols and all that. There are medicines that we keep
Yeah.
in the house,
Yeah.
just in case. The Panadols
Yeah.
and sorts.
Yeah.
How long should we have them? Because these are things we don't buy to take right away, but we buy to take just in case you wake up and you have a headache and you need just some first aid pill like a Panadol or a
Yeah.
painkiller.
Yeah.
How long should you keep them in the house?
Well, in the general terms is that you should first be sure about what conditions you are keeping them.
Okay.
Okay.
So, if for example you bought tablets, on the box actually it will say store under
cold, dry,
certain,
yes.
it will put in temperature, under certain temperature. Normally, if it is not so hot like it has been the last few days, our room temperature is about 25 degrees,
Okay.
which is safe.
Okay.
Then you can keep it until, my own advice, personal advice would be you should not go, maybe keep it beyond a month to expiry date.
Okay.
Although it is still okay until the
Within.
expiry date.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have
Thank you,
that.
Dr. Bildad Baguma, the ED Joint Medical Stores. We are all guilty this morning. Let us not point fingers at each other. Let's just learn, take lessons from this conversation. And if you have any questions, you can put them on our social media platforms. The hashtag is morning@NTV. Today we have been looking at drug storage, personal and at a larger scale as well, like he does at Joint Medical Stores. I'm really looking forward to to come into the stores. I want to come to the stores, and I think I'm going to buy this a temperature measure or something just to go through the stores, and we can share some of this information with the people out there, and hopefully it can help them. That has been our Kickstarter conversation this morning. We're going to take a short commercial break. When we get back, we'll be getting into more. Morning at NTV continues. Good morning.
Hello? Where can we find a mechanic?
Hatchet!